Good afternoon. Welcome to the DBMS classroom. So, we were talking about a way how a user is going to interact with the databases. When I mean to say it is a user, we call him as end user. Two, we call him a software developer. Three, we call him as a database administrator. The software developer, we call him as a sophisticated user. That means a person who has developed the SQL software, a person who has developed the SQL queries, etc. Two, novice users or end users. So these people are you or me, whoever. We are going to write the DDL commands, DML commands, DCL commands, and thereby use the functionalities of the core DBMS. That is two categories. Third category is the person who is going to manage the database. Third person, we are going to call him as a database administrator, DBA, database administrator, and this person, he is going to manage the database. How he is going to manage? That means I am purchasing a DBMS software to I am purchasing a DBMS software, a SQL software to my college, Oracle SQL. So, how many number of users are there? Where the location of a database has to be stored? To which user, which rights has to be granted? So, all this information has to be maintained by the database administrator. So, that person we are going to call with some functions what he can do. Now, coming to the very first function, we are going to call it as schema definition. The very first function, we are going to call it as schema definition. So, in this schema definition, he is going to work on logical or he is going to work on conceptual view. So, as far as schema definition is going to be concerned, he is going to work on logical or he is going to work on conceptual view. What is a logical, what is a conceptual means? There we can make a metadata. Now we can make a data dictionary so that we can describe the database. So that we can describe the database. How we can describe the database? I have my identity card. On this identity card, my name is printed. So name, it occupies varchar 2. Next, date of birth is mentioned. Then I can say it is again a date data type. Next one, mobile phone is printed. Then I can say it can have a numeric data. In this way, I am going to describe the database, and this description of a database, we are going to work it out with this schema definition. The second comes storage structures and access methods. The second way of representing was the storage structures and access methods. So we were telling that a database is going to be represented in this model, and the database is going to form as rows and columns. Rows and columns, we call them as tuples, we call them as attributes, and it is going to be stored in level 1. So, as far as conceptual level, it is going to be stored in level 2. As far as level 3 is concerned, the database administrator is going to take up. So these are the three levels of abstraction. One we call it as user, software user, database administrator. Two we are going to call it as logical or conceptual view. Third one we are going to call it as physical level. In this physical level, we are going to say the storage structure, where exactly the database is allocated. How is the database management system is working with this data, you need to mention. So those are all we are going to call here as storage structures and how the access mechanism is going to be created. Third one, schema and physical organization modifications. Schema and physical organization modifications. Yes, it is going to work with the aspect what we taught earlier. That one we call it as data independence. We call it as data independence. One we are going to call it as physical data independence. Two we are going to call it as logical data independence. One we are going to call it as physical data independence. Two we call it as logical data independence. So what is physical data independence means? I can change my storage space so that next time when I am going to include it, it will not affect the L2, it will not affect the L3. So that is where we call it as physical data independence. I can upgrade, I can migrate my storage structure from one location to another location. I can migrate my physical level from one location to another location. But the data will not be lost. The data will not be lost. The repositories will not be lost. Everything will be safe. But I am going to migrate it from one to other place. Best example, I am going to store my WhatsApp in my phone mobile. Now I want to move it into my memory card. So I just copy that folder, move it into the memory card. That means I move my physical data from one location to another location. Again I restarted my mobile. Still WhatsApp is working. What is that implication? Level 3 is changed. Thereby level 2 and level 3 are still working properly. That is level 1 has been migrated, level 1 has been managed. But still L2 and L3 are working correctly. You are going to call that one as physical data independence. Next comes the logical data independence. So in this logical data independence, I have field 1, field 2, field 3 and field 4. Now I want to add one more field to my database. I want to add one more field to my database. So instead of create command, I am going to use an alter command. So obviously logical view will be changed, schema will be changed, data dictionary content will be changed, and it is going to be reflected into the physical data. And it is going to be reflected into the physical data. You call that dependency as logical data independence. So such is where this database administrator is going to work on. Next one, granting of authorization for data access. What was the other duty of database administrator was? He is going to give some privileges. He is going to give some read operation, write operation for a database. Until unless we get a read or until unless we get a write operation, we cannot work on the database. We cannot work on a database. See, I can say there is a website called as Spot My Train or a Where is My Train. I hit the train number and I will be able to see where exactly my train is. I can't modify the train number, I can't modify the train. I will just only view the data. So, authorization of data access. The IRCTC people, they have given me authority only to do a read operation. Only to do a read operation. I cannot change it. Okay. So we in our internal, we have a eCare software. So in eCare software, you can change your mobile phone, you can change your email, but you can't change your name, you can't change your register number. So access for mobile phone updation, email updation, we have given you right access. We have authorized you either to move a right or right, but remaining fields, we have given you only a right towards a read operation. So that is regarding the grant. Next one, integrity constraints. So when we talk about integrity, I have 565. Again, I have another element 565. So 565 and 565, two records are going to be same, which leads to duplicacy and some errors. To eliminate such data, to eliminate the duplicacy, we are going to propose primary key. We are going to include a primary key. So using this primary key concept, we are going to make unique and we are going to make not null. When we are including a feature called as unique and when we are going to include a feature called as not null, obviously it is going to satisfy the integrity constraints. That is, data should not be empty, data should be repeated only one time. So such aspects we are going to call here as a primary key aspects. So when we concatenate two tables, when we concatenate or join two or more tables, at that time we are going to use a concept of foreign key or a reference key. So we can concatenate two or more tables and get derivations from such content using a select command and other DML usages. Next one was runtime maintenance. Sorry, next one was routine maintenance. Next one was routine maintenance. So what will be the routine maintenance? That is, you can assume that always the database should be available always. It should not go down. Next one, people can log in at any time. People can log off at any time. Meanwhile, they can do their operations such as DDL, DML, DCL commands. That is, he can create his table, update his table, alter his table. In this way, there are some basic operations which a user is going to do, and that all operations they are going to be assigned to the job role, and that should be fulfilled whether the user is going to compatibly do the content or not. So that is where we call it as a routine maintenance. So these are the different integrants where a database administrator is going to work it. So after database administrator, what he is going to do? Now we have an interesting topic, that is the architecture of DBMS. Architecture of DBMS. In interest of time, in interest of space, now I will discuss it part by part, whereby we can look into the holistic diagram later. One, we are going to call it as architecture of database management system. So, the very first arena will have novice users, followed by application programmers, query users, and database administrators. The very first diagram, part of a diagram, it is having three parts. I am writing the first part of the content. So the first part of the diagram, it is going to be turned into the level 1. The first part of the diagram, it is going to be turned into the level 1. So at this level 1, we have novice users, new users, followed by the people who have developed Oracle SQL. The people who have developed the Oracle SQL, that is application programmers. 3, the people who are going to type their query, people who are going to write the SQL commands so that the SQL commands gets executed. We need to have those people. Those we are going to call it as query users. Followed by the 4th people we are going to discuss, we have just already taken up, that is the database administrators. Now, how are these people working, or how are these people communicating to the database? This was the question. How are the people working to use the functionalities of a database? So novice users, they are going to use the application interfaces. Application programmers, they are going to use application programs. Query users, they are going to key the queries. And database administrators, they are going to work on the schema. So these are the 4 roles of the 4 different users. The 4 roles of the 4 different users. So you are already using live.sql.com. Okay, livesql.com. You get an interface. You get that interface, and in this interface, you are typing the SQL queries, and there you are going to use the DCL commands, DTL commands, DML commands, and PCL commands. So all the commands you are going to key there. So that is what you are going to call it as an application interface. See, we can't touch the database, but we can get an interface so that we can touch the database. That is, we have to interact with the database. How can I interact with the database? I can interact with an interfacing area. I can interact with an interfacing zone. So via the interfacing zone, I can build queries, and thereby I can type DDL, DCL, DML, and DTL commands, and thereby I can start working on the data. So that is regarding that. Fine. As we have Android different versions, as we have Windows versions, XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, in this way we will be getting the updates. Similarly, the Oracle SQL will also get updates day to day. So that updates has to be incorporated online. That is where this application programmers, they are going to look into, right? They will not type queries. They will not use the application interface, select command, alter command. No, they won't do all this. They are going to write the programs. They are going to upgrade their servers. They are going to upgrade the software. So that is where this application programmers, they are going to work it out. Next comes the database administrators. You already know the 5 or 6 roles. What is the first role? We call it as schema. What is the second role? What is the second role? That is routine maintenance. What is the third role?
Storage structures.
Pardon?
Storage structures.
Okay, next role?
Granting of authorization.
Yeah, done. Next role, there are 6 different roles, right? Integrity constraints, that is putting up primary key, foreign key, not null, unique, all these are. So all these they are going to build it for the schema. All these they are going to build it for the schema refinement experiment. So this is all going up into the topmost layer. Okay. After this first part, the diagram consists of 3 parts of the diagram. This is the first part. Now we will be looking into the second part of the diagram, which is little bit complicated, and it is going to have a lot of interfaces, lot of works inside the DBMS. is going to have query processor. 2, it is going to have storage manager. The second part consists of 2 parts again. First one, query processor. Second one, it is called as storage manager. So, what will be the contents here? Embedded DML precompiler, DML compiler, DDL interpreter. So, I will repeat the terms first. Architecture of DBMS Part 2. The first line was embedded DML precompiler. Second one, DML compiler. Third one, DDL interpreter. DDL interpreter. Fourth one, application program object code. Application program object code. Fifth one, query evaluation engine. Query evaluation engine. Embedded DML precompiler, DML compiler, DDL interpreter. Application program object code, query evaluation engine. Next one was storage manager. In this storage manager, the elements are concurrency control with transaction manager, log manager. Transaction manager, log manager. Followed by buffer manager, file manager, recovery manager, and disk space manager. Disk space manager, recovery manager, buffer manager, file manager, transaction manager, and log manager. So these are the different modules inside the storage manager both query processor and storage manager, they are the part of the second part of the DBMS architecture. Let us discuss each element in detail. Now, as we are aware, the core commands will be DDL or DML. The core command set group in a SQL will be the two of one, it is create followed by alter followed by drop. Next one, it will be via insert, update, delete. These are the major content with select command. With this, we can say around 60 to 70% of the core SQL will be taken up. Insert command, update command, delete command, select command, create command, alter command, and drop command. With these only, the entire DBMS and also entire around 70% of the content will be covered. Now, how are DDL commands executed? How are DDL commands executed means they are going to be executed in a model called as interpreter. They are going to be executed in a model called as interpreter. That is, first line has to be fixed. If any error, it has to be fixed. Ultimately, it doesn't go to the second line or the third line, right? So, until unless the first source code error is revoked, it will not move to the second or third. So that is where this DDL interpreter is going to take. Next comes the data manipulation language compiler. So when I can call it as a compiler, it converts the source code to the object code, and if there are any errors in it, all the errors are going to be revolutionized along to us at a time, and we can fix all those at a time. So that is the difference you should understand between a compiler and an interpreter. So at a glance, all the DDL commands, that is create, alter, drop, they use compiler structure. Whereas DDL, they are going to use interpreter. What is the commands which fall in DDL? They can be insert, update, select, and delete. Two categories are done. Next comes the embedded DML precompiler. The next word was embedded DML precompiler, right? So, if we are going to use the net enriched version, that is, we are communicating with the net, then the interface is provided by the internet. But when we are going to use the local copy in the hard disk, we can use a notepad, and thereby we are going to use it. Or there is an interface which is directly operated over a data, and we are able to use it. So the interface is directly linked to the database, and we are able to use it. We call it as embedded DML precompiler. Okay. So in earlier versions less than 8, we used to type the things on a notepad, and thereby we are going to execute the commands. But you people, you have a privilege, you can directly work on the database. A built-in compiler will be there, a built-in interface will be there. In the interface, with some buttons, run button, save button, everything is pre-compiled. So you can use that interface and directly work on the data. So that is the difference. So in the first versions, up to I can say 2000, we used to type it in DOS prompt, we used to type it down on a notepad, and we used to link that notepad to the database, and we used to get the answers. But for you people, what it is happening, the interface is already built. So that means already built means interface is going to be embedded there, and you can directly key the queries whatever you need. So that is regarding that. Now, The commonality of a compiler and an interpreter is they are going to convert the source code to the object code. So this is the common definition, right? Either a compiler definition or an interpreter definition. The definition is same. Compiler or an interpreter converts the source code to the object code. That is done. But when I am going to use an interpreter, it executes like while. When I am going to use a compiler, all the errors or execution will happen at the block level. So that was the core difference we should understand. Now, source code is converted to the object code. How to operate that content? That content is going to be operated with the application program object code. So it is going to be operated with application program object code. Next comes query evaluation engine. Now, I must know whether the query was in syntax correct or not. I should understand. So I am going to write select. I forgot to write star from student. Now error should come because I didn't mention any field name, I didn't mention any asterisk. Now query has to be evaluated, and that it is going to be evaluated with an interface we call here as a query evaluation engine. So the queries what we are going to type has to be optimized, has to be reused, and has to be given to multiple users, and their queries has to be executed. So for that we are going to use the query evaluation engine, right? So I am going to say select star from student. Now 3 students have given the same command. No need to execute the same command again and again, because already answers are going to be given there. That answer can be replicated to the user who is above. That is what we call as optimization. That is what we are going to call here as an optimization. If the same query is given, why I should execute recurrently, why I should disturb the database again and again. Already one person has asked the answers, I have given to him. The other person is also asking the same, then I can give the same answer to that person. No need to execute again and again. So that is where this optimization is going to come into picture, and that is this query evaluation engine is going to take care. So that is the core functionality of a query processor. That is how to execute a query, how to process a query. So those are contents. It is going to be taken care via this query evaluation engine. After that, we are going to have storage manager. The next level will be the storage manager. So when I was talking about a database architecture, it is going to have 3 levels. 1, it is user level. 2, it is going to be the conceptual level. 3, it is going to be the storage level. So storage level, it is going to be managed via the storage manager. So databases are going to be stored in memory. Databases are going to be stored in memory, a physical memory. So how a physical memory is going to be organized, that has to be seen. That is taken care via this storage manager. The storage manager is that how a database is stored, where a database is stored, how much space it has taken, when it was created, when it was updated, when it was modified, who was the last user. So everything has to be recorded, has to gain an entity over it. That is taken care via this storage manager. Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of the storage manager? 1, it is going to support concurrent control. The very first privilege it is going to support was concurrency control. So, what is concurrency control? 2 or more users can use database at the same time. 2 or more users can use the database at the same time. That has to be supported by the DBMS, where it is taken up with a word called as concurrency control. We can say parallel. We can say parallel, right? So I'm using this Teams software. I'm using a Teams software here. So in a class strength of 60, around 10 are here, another 50 are using the Teams software. So how many concurrent users are there? Around 50 are there. So 50 persons are listening to the same database or same class here, right? So only one class is there, but it is shared with multiple people in the class, multiple users. So that is what we are going to call here as a concurrency control. So two or more people can use the database at the same time. We are going to mention it as concurrency control. Next one was transaction. Next one was transaction. When I need to say it is a transaction, it is going to have one beginning, another it is going to have ending. It is going to have two stages. One we are going to call it as beginning stage, another we are going to call it as ending stage. That is start and stop. If any error goes in between, it will read back to the first. It will resurge to the first. So from the beginning to the end, any interrupt has happened, any internal indecipency is raised due to internal problem, due to storage problem, whatever problems has been raised, again it will start from the beginning. That is the core functionality of a logic. That is the core function of a transaction. So how it is going to do up means, it is going to use two algorithms. One we call it as ASIC, atomicity, concurrency, integrity, and durability. Atomicity, concurrency, isolation, it's not integrated, isolation followed by durability. And AIRES. So these are the two algorithms which are going to see that a transaction and a locking can happen when there is a transaction is active. When the transaction is active, when can I say there is a transaction? It is going to have first point start, another point stop. In between that, we can write a piece of code, and that piece of code is successful if it reaches to the end point. Meanwhile, any disturbances comes, it moves to the starting point. That is where transaction is taken. Who is taking care of that? We call it as transaction manager. How he is going to do that? He is going to use an algorithm called as atomicity, concurrency, isolation, and durability. He is going to measure the four properties. Using these four properties, he sees that the transaction is successful or not. I use my Google Pay and move 100 rupees to your account. That means 100 rupees has to be deducted from my Google Pay account and 100 rupees has to be credited to your Google Pay or Phone Pay account, right? So a transaction is successful if 100 rupees is deducted from my account and 100 rupees is added to your account. In between any internet errors, storage errors, anything happens, it has to come to the starting. That is where this transaction manager, he is going to take care. Okay? So, beginning of a transaction, move 100 rupees from my account, ending of a transaction to the friend's account. So, 100 rupees to be deducted from my account, 100 rupees to be added to your friend's account. So, if both are done, then only a transaction is successful. If any error comes between this, I have to go from the beginning. That is taken care by this transaction manager. Next comes lock management. The second functionality was lock management. So in log management, we have read access, write access, or read and write access. It is going to have a read access followed by write access, or it is going to have a read write access. So if I am not able to write something into a database, if I am not able to write something into a database, but I am able to see only the database, that means I am having a log called as read log. Next one. I can write something into my database, that is read write. I can do reading and I can do writing. Then I'm going to have an append access, I'm going to have an alter access, I'm going to have an update access. So that is where read write access. So all these operations are controlled by a manager, and that manager we are going to call it as a log manager, right? So the log manager, he is going to have some set of logs, read log, write log, that is exclusive log. So for example, if you are seeing spot my train, where is my train? You click the train number and you will see there. You can't modify the train time, you can't modify the location where it is, etc. We can see only those values. So you are going to have this read operation. Assume you can have ECAP operation. So ECAP software, you can update your mobile number, you can update your email. So what is that? You are going to see that you get a read write access. Next one. You can see only your register number, you can see only your name in the ECAP software. You can't modify it. Again, I can say it is a read operation. So, but on mobile phone and phone number, you can do read and you can do write. So that is what we call it as read write access, which is taken care by this log manager operations. Fine. So we call it as. So we call here as a read write operations. Next comes buffer manager, file manager, recovery manager, and disk manager. So in detail, we will be discussing it in our other class. Okay.